This is Jesus, and my name is now Russ Brown, and I'm addressing King Charles, my king, at the second coming. King Charles, greetings. It's come to my recent awareness that Jesus was murdered effectively in England at the second coming in the name of diversity. And I know that you know that no one, when we were sold diversity, including me, I'm not here to promote any kind of anti-diversity narrative or polemic, simply stating the facts as have been reported to me by my angels. The facts are that collectively the English political class, with Sadiq Khan acting as the fixer, knew that I was the reincarnated Jesus. The Catholic Church have had proof. They've known all my life. They've got prophetic proof, which they're hiding from the world, which is a great shame, because obviously it would have gave many people great comfort to know that everything's predestined, that prophecy really is coming to pass, and that there is a God, and that he cares, or she cares. Because I am essentially a female spirit, Sophia, the Levite feminine, which is what we're emphasising now going forward. But I'm incarnate as a man because I keep reincarnating as men, as a man to lead by example, because men are always a problem. And your creator leads by example, and it's hands-on. So it's an emergency intervention to save the human race from imminent extinction. But subsequently, there was an event, CB13OAL, Sudden Chain of War, for a radiation event, which is what I was coming back to save my creation from. It's really deeply insulting to my angels, who are fellow co-creators and who are here in England. And we think theologically illiterate to make such grave mistakes that put really everyone on earth in imminent peril. We need to restore the bridge and the relationship and heal wounds between heaven and earth, which I think I've reached a point now with the English political class, knowing that I was Jesus and believing that it's okay, that collectively I can report this is a psychosis. Greetings. This is Jesus, a Coventrian. I lived in Coventry all my life, that's central England. King Charles. King Charles, this is Jesus at the second coming in England. I'm calling upon you to do something very rare and something that I honestly didn't think I would be doing, or thought even for a second I'd be doing, and that is calling for your powers to, in this rare instance, to dissolve Parliament and to allow an emergency, divinely instituted, all-female, Emma Watson-led emergency government from Westminster, England. This is unique in that the experiment we've had with atheist politicians, because we're outside time and space, and their policies, obviously, what we're doing all the time is we're going into the future to see what the effects are of those policies. And when we live in a world with 408, I think, nuclear reactors, and really a suppressed UN Chernobyl report, quite long, might be a bit boring for MPs, but or MEPs, but it emphasises over and over again the effects of radiation far worse than expected, and largely due to the staged nuclear explosions in the 50s and 60s, I believe. So we know, because we know the future, that there's an impending event which would happen even if atheism was true, and will have to happen anyway at some point. God's power, that's the mighty ones, the mighty Elohim, here with me in central England, they can delay that up to 1,000 years. Like I said, it's going to have to happen sometime anyway, so whenever is the best time. What I'm hoping we can do at this point is the Creator. I'm very tired, I'm worn out, fed up. I'm on a rescue mission to save my creation from you, English political class, and the policies in many of the countries, nuclear proliferation, not the Scottish. And you decided, English political class, to attack me with the very same stuff that I was coming back to try and save my own creation for you, your own lives, your family lives, your friends. There is a fault in the male ego, that's a separate issue, but we're exposing your desire to project your own God, which is just your own ego. And the Bible was basically, I am, the Holy Spirit told me, a female spirit, has to keep reincarnated as a man to lead by example, because men are always the problem. Otherwise, I'd be Sophia. Female qualities of Jesus, love, compassion, empathy, that's the divine feminine, which is what I've specifically been told we're emphasising going forward. So for the next 1,000 years, that's the golden age. It's the divine feminine golden age. So the so my father, very loyal, as we all were, and are, to my royal family, who have served for me over many years, of course. Princess Anne, who's recently, I just noticed the other day, I was very pleased to see, is a follower on this channel just last few days. Also, I've got a message from Princess of Wales that I'll be replying to very shortly. My father, like I said, close protection officer for the Queen. Now, Princess Anne, what I can remember, I'm not sure, what I remember him saying, and it's probably been said before, but amongst royal close protection officers, Princess Anne was held in the highest regard, and I can remember him saying that she was their favourite, she was his favourite royal, and very hardworking, and like I say, perhaps not surprisingly, greeting me, although we haven't spoken yet, but by coming along, from having heard that I'm back and coming along, obviously very, very good to see you, Princess Anne, from the father of a royal close protection officer who held you in the highest regard. And my angels told me, and they told me who was involved, and the evidence remains at CB 13OAL Sutton Cheney Wharf, end mooring of 22. No one else has been there. Deadly levels of nuclear radiation still on my old mooring, where I was living on a 24-foot plastic boat for a YouTube video telling the truth about some misdeeds of the English political class, which resulted in death threats confirmed from Peter Hitchens' blog. Before I knew I was protected by angels, resulted in me fleeing to that to that isolated mooring, still in central England, but most isolated spot I could find. I was there for like 3 years because I was taking it seriously, and like I say, I didn't know I was protected by angels then. So an American Black Hawk helicopter comes over. That's my initial vision as a 10-year-old. You can go back and see verification of, and Catholic Church, I'm sure the little priest, and they all knew before I described it what pretty much what it was, what I'd said I'd seen. From a Catholic cultural hook, I may have shouted out as a 10-year-old child, "It's Satan," because I'm seeing a black hawk, and I'm a Catholic. And Catholics believe in Babylonian dualism, a good God and a bad God. I'm actually seeing is a symbolic representation of the Pope ordering, with the 32 black people in the background applauding with their wings, the murder of Jesus at the second coming with an American Black Hawk helicopter. Hence, he comes up and he grows bigger as a Black Hawk, and I fall down, and then I'm lifted back up to life again, and I start prophesying Chernobyl before a Catholic audience. So, from all that time, we've given them before then to contemplate their actions, perhaps consult a Protestant theologian. Probably the craziest thing that's ever been done. So they took a guess. So the information we had initially was the Jesuits, who believe, if they're Roman Catholics, that Jesus is God, just in a misconstrued concept, a materialistic concept. Yeah, essentially they believe Jesus is God, though, so well done for that. That's, the Unitarians attempt, obviously, messed up. So, but they told the English political class that Jesus wasn't God, and to their shock and horror, they've since found out that Jesus is God, and they nuked God, their maker, their creator, who is Jesus now, has been revealed at the second coming. Now, I've had a long life. It's been very hard and tedious, and I'm hoping that someone's going to invite me from the cold soon and offer me a cup of tea and some kind words. I'd certainly like to offer my any counselling or healing or give my friendship to the royal family, and if we can proceed forward at this point, perhaps we could have a casual, informal, private meeting first before anything's public, and just get to know each other, and perhaps start from scratch and find my way back to where I am now. And my angels thought that that was quite impressive in the context of the time I was born into, with all the deceit and distractions and atheist propaganda and etc. So here we are. All of that time since I knew that they tried to murder me, and in fact my angels had told me at the start of the second coming that if they didn't have my back, and I didn't know they did, I would have been killed many times over as a truther. And we need to get a monument up for those brave souls who are still shadow banned on places like YouTube. Obviously, big changes are coming, and heads are going to roll. I'm calling on my king to dissolve Parliament based on me trying my very best for now many years to offer a hand of friendship, probably 77 times in many different ways, to the English political class, to simply say sorry, to open up a dialogue, to do we have a misunderstanding here? Why would you do something like that? Is there at first I just said they're just power crazy loonies who would sell their own granny for power. I mean, nuking Jesus because you're worried about you're so obsessed with power. I mean, obviously, the things we can do, just, we're here to fix faults and to improve things massively. Okay, we are the future, because that's where we come from. And we've got no problem working with the Scottish to help us, who voted against the nuclear proliferation. Thank you, my friends in Scotland. And to help us with, perhaps with getting to grips with the Westminster levers of power, and perhaps as the Reform Party are leading, we should offer them to come in into this interim emergency government as certainly for a while until we develop things. But this is an emergency release valve for a historical injustice of monumental proportions, which is it's a long story, but it's an emergency government by God as a release valve, pressure release valve. There's not been any true feminist government on earth, And this government has been selected by God and is proven, or provably, divinely inspired. That is, these women, these famous women, because it's predestination and because it's going to ease people's concerns as we transition. These people are already loved. They're already loved by the world and respected and admired by me as well. So they'll be forming a new government from England, which will be a rock and fills the entire earth. We're talking about a world government here, and in partnership with our friends, hopefully, with our brothers, our cousins, our kin in the United States of America. And of course, many of these, Charlize Theron, Chloe, Grace Moretz, Americans, Anglo-American. King Charles, please dissolve Parliament. I found out just a few days ago, maybe a week ago, the real reason was that collectively, the English political class, Sadiq Khan was just representing, he was acting on behalf of them in consent. Were saying that they didn't want Jesus to come back here because they wanted to try diversity. Okay, but you tried to murder me. You tried to murder Jesus. Now, no one, apart from you, because we believe you're psychotic and you can't see anything wrong in you need to be told. The English political class don't think there's anything wrong in murdering Jesus, who turns out to be God, their maker, an Englishman with a faithful and proud Englishman, whose father was very brave and was a faithful and proud Englishman, and you tried to murder me in the name of diversity in central England. Probably more than once, but we've got the evidence, because nuclear radiation, it's only the British government that's got this stuff. It's no other way it got up there, and it's still up there. CV13OAL, last morning of 22, okay, and my red line, as I've said before, is a compensation check for my neighbours, Sarah and Shane, who live up there, and a compensation check for me, moving forward. So we can move forward. That would be at least one stalling gesture on your behalf, which would be, like I say, you can go through Liz from Nuclear Security, who is already in communication with me. So I've been trying all this time in good faith to offer a hand of friendship, despite knowing that they tried to murder me, and it's come to the point where no response. We now hit a brick wall called predestination. You can't oppose God's prophetic will; it's impossible. It's already happened. It just it ends one or two ways. So it doesn't end in the worst possible way. I'm calling on the King to just on this rare occasion. It is the second coming. This is God, an Englishman incarnate. As my angels demonstrate, only God has God's power, and that's to command the angels. Ready to form, for the first time ever in history, the world government of God from London, England. And these are divinely inspired rulers who are in communication with my angels, which therefore can get warnings about pending events or political policies which could lead to disaster, because we can go into the future and assess the results of those policies. That's what we need, or that's what this creator, I'm the creator, that's what we're having going forward. We're not going to keep coming back and saving you from, crazy men. So, to this extent, King Charles, please use your powers. This is a command from God to dissolve Parliament and make way for my Emma Watson-led all-female emergency government from London with Scottish partnership. So here we are. All of that time since I knew that I was a regular for many years on Peter Hitchens' blog, Peter Hitchens, formerly anyway, Men on Sunday, the Holy Spirit pointing out But I was a regular for many years on Peter Hitchens' blog, Peter Hitchens, formerly anyway, Men on Sunday. In 2016 or 15, he gave the game away. I said that I'd had enough, and I was going to overthrow the government, and he took that very, very seriously. Told me to consider this very carefully because of all the benefit payments, for example, and all, I don't know to quite what extent he thought I was going to the civil service as well, but I found that quite funny at the time, because I had not any clue whatsoever that I was Jesus and Jesus was God, but everyone else did, including people from GCHQ and the intelligence services who knew I was posting on Hitchens' blog, and I know that for an absolute fact. Monkey business was going on. Peter Hitchens, I mean, like I say, at the time I was, what is this craziness? How did he think me, Russ Brown, in a 24-foot plastic boat is going to be overthrowing the government? His arguments to try and dissuade me from such actions, because you knew, as did pretty much everyone else, that I was, because you've been told you are working for the Roman Catholic Church, pretty much as a pretend Protestant. Sorry, Peter, but we're going to have words. Sorry, Peter, but we're going to have words, right? It's been a long time. I had a friendship, which would be really nice at this time. Would be really nice for me at this time. And perhaps, as I have no family, or certainly no family that supports me, because the Roman Catholic Church bribed them, and has been since 2016 at least. Start the second one here. Upside down, and suddenly I'm picked up off the floor, literally picked up off the floor, by an invisible person, sat back on my chair, and this invisible person touches my solar plexus area, and I immediately go from terrified and demoralised to completely, switched on and absolutely fine. In fact, so switched on and absolutely fine so instantly that the Catholic vile, bigoted nun-type woman, about 3 or 4 seats to the left of me, she starts going, look, he was acting. It's nothing wrong with him. You see, he was terrified. Now he's perfectly fine. So obviously, she'll never know the truth. The truth was that an angel touched me and instantly strengthened me. So I'm back on my chair, and everyone's looking around and thinking, what's going on here? What's this boy doing? Is he acting? Is it real? And the angel, the very first thing the angel says to me is, I've been reading your book. I go, oh, right, so I'm only 10 years old, and so I, without even thinking, I said, he's been reading my book. and everyone looked at me like, what? Someone's talking to him, and they've just said they're reading his book. So I said to the angel, I said, what book? What? And he says, he didn't say when you were 28. I actually, made that bit up because I worked out I was 28 when I wrote this pamphlet. But so to be accurate, he said, when you're older, you write a book. Now, the first thing he said was, I've been reading your book. Chernobyl is in the Bible. I've never written a book. So anyway, what happened? So Pope rears up at me and I fall down. And the last thing I think when I look at the Pope is mate, you're really not scary. Yeah, I thought you were scary at first, but the more I look at you, the more full of hot air you are, really. And he got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then faded away. And I could see the Bat people, 52 people behind him, clapping with their wings. And they contacted me in 2016 and they said, you have a problem. There's a fee to do, people. Yeah. So maybe, in fact more than maybe, the Pope or somebody in the Catholic Church told them there's a prophet in the world, yeah? He's Russ Brown and he's going to be a problem to you. Well, I ain't wrong about that anyway. I've never written a book. I mean, I used to, because I was, I never once thought in my entire life for a second that I was God or Jesus. I never once thought I never once thought at any point in my life that when he said I've been reading your book, he could have meant the Bible. But he must have meant the Bible, thinking about it now, because, it turns out that I'm God and God wrote the Bible. And, angels do read the Bible. Angels don't read the shitty pamphlet that I wrote when I was 28. It was about a year before I became a Christian, and everyone was like, oh, this is a bit silly, isn't it? It had like bits and bobs and all sorts of weird shit in it. I can't imagine that an angel would be reading such, not very good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've written some good stuff recently, but not in book form. So the only book, on what book do angels read, and what book would an angel refer to in the first instance? I mean, angels aren't that careless to give the false impression to a prophet that he might be prophet and king. He might be, the author of the book, the best-selling book in the entire world, which is, of course, the Bible. So, again, think about it. The angels know that I'm now interpreting that comment as the Bible. So, again, they know the future, so they wouldn't make such a careless mistake that I could make, such a foolish, assertion that I wrote the Bible. When we said to Russ in 1982, I've been reading your book, you never believe when he's like 50, he'll actually think we meant the Bible. Like I say, angels know the future, so they know that I would end up believing that they meant the Bible. And in fact, when you actually think about it, it's pretty obvious that he did, in fact, mean the Bible. So Jesus, the Word of God, the same person who wrote the Bible, that's the Word made flesh. I am the Word made flesh. So, I really genuinely am, according to the angels, the same person that they nailed to a cross. And whoa.
Like a glittering prize, I saw you up on a clear day. First it came hot, then our lights spread away. Fear in the eyes, out the light sky. We were spending time, we were staring out. Sweating big more, and it was blood from the rain. We were staring out, now we're staring in. You never leave, ever move out. Oh, the night of love, and you never stop. Shine on, shine a light on me. And all of my life, so that much more I see. Like a glittering prize, I saw you up on a clear day. First it came hard, then all I break away. Only on a clear day, on the clear light. Always on a clear day. As if the lights are off, like a glittering
because when we get to the second angel, we hear of a great mountain burning with fire cast into the sea. Now what is the sea? The sea is the crowded old world. What is a great mountain? A great mountain is a powerful government, as we've discovered. So when in history was a great mountain or a powerful nation, powerful government, literally burning with fire in the old world, in the sea? Well, think of the firestorms of Hamburg, of Dresden. You know, this is Germany. This is Nazi Germany, which was the great powerful government, or the great mountain, that was literally burning with fire and was cast down in 1945 at the end of the war, into the sea. Now, we've got here a third part of the creatures which were in the sea had life, died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. Do you know that in the Second World War, almost exactly 1/3 of all ships involved were sunk? 1/3. A third part of the ships were destroyed, it said. I think there was 105,000 ships that were actually sunk in World War II, because pretty much all the world's shipping was commandeered for the war effort, and a third of them were destroyed. It was horrendous. I mean, just absolutely, completely. They were involved in the war effort, and also the World Wildlife Fund is saying that we have literally had a third part of sea creatures die from pollution, again uniquely in this century. A third angel sounded. Now this is where it gets even louder. You know, as loud as it can get. And there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon a third part of the rivers and fountains, upon the fountains of water. And the name of that star is called Wormwood. Okay, now Wormwood is Chernobyl. It's Slavic. It's the museum in Ukraine for Wormwood explains it's named after the bitter herb wormwood. Yeah, for years Snoop said it was a conspiracy. It never was. You could go back in the day, you could go and get a Ukraine online dictionary and translate it yourself. Okay, so this is let me just go and repeat here. The name of the star is called Wormwood. So a star, what is a star? A star is literally a nuclear reactor, if you didn't know that. According to modern science, or the explanation of these things, a star is, to be precise, a fusion reactor. But it's a nuclear reactor, and we're going to move on to the story of fusion reactors next, because we are getting fusion reactors next, which I believe is probably Trumpet 5, and they're going to suspend a star on Earth in magnets. That's what they're going to do. I think in France first. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Possibly a full meltdown, which is what Trumpet 5 is explaining. So we've got a nuclear reactor is a star, and the nuclear reactor is called Chernobyl. That's Chernobyl in Russian Bibles. And a third part of the waters became Chernobyl, and many died because of the waters, because they were made bitter. Okay, it rained for 3 weeks all over Europe after Chernobyl. 3 weeks, from northern Finland all the way down to southern Italy. In northern Finland, all the fruit farms died. The reindeer died. In southern Italy, the fruit farms were destroyed. It reached the east coast of America. Precisely 1/3 of the world's waters were poisoned by Chernobyl. It got in the drinking waters in Wales and killed my grandmother. It made my uncles have thyroid problems. It's a long story, but I know it was Chernobyl. I really do. And okay, so this is now at this point there'll be people saying, but nuclear power doesn't exist. No, that's not what we ever said. We never said that. We said there's no strong evidence that nuclear explosions exist, because when they were testing all the, they were staged. They were basically staged, and they were just blowing up conventional explosives and saying, look, we've created a new bomb. But as far as nuclear power is concerned, what do you think's powering all these stations which are creating massive amounts of steam? Are they secretly being powered by coal? Yeah, clearly they're being powered by something, aren't they? Yeah, that's called nuclear power. So we're not denying nuclear power exists. We're denying nuclear explosions. Or we hope that maybe nuclear explosions are a bluff. That's what we're hoping. But as far as nuclear power is concerned, no, nuclear power is real. Now, think about the logic of it. Think of Chernobyl, think of Fukushima, think of all the nuclear reactors built on fault lines, major fault lines, along the coast where tsunamis can happen again. Think about all the thousands of years ahead of us. Do you think there's not going to be problems? Do you think there's not going to be more and worse events that that are yet to come? And of course there are. We are downscaling our nuclear protection. We're getting in Chinese parts. We're getting in parts we know fail. We're giving our nuclear, this is the UK, we're letting China build nuclear reactors. It's crazy. We've just gone insane. It's game theory, apparently. Game theory, yeah. Okay, so we've got... We've got this generation, this is how you need to think about it, we've got this generation that has decided to pollute every future generation. I'll just repeat that. Just get your head around what we've done. This generation, and there is a Bible verse about the most wicked, evil generation that ever existed. Well, think about what we're doing here, because nuclear waste cannot be got rid of. All you can do is bury it, and it lasts for millions of years, or tens of thousands of years, or certainly thousands of years, or definitely hundreds of years, yeah? We are polluting generations to come. We've decided that our generation is going to do that in the name of saving the planet. Now, I'll just remind you that Revelation 11:18 says God is returning to destroy those who destroy the earth. I'm fighting to save the earth, but what God tells me are the real dangers are not the same dangers that the false prophet tells me. The false prophet tells me that it's, you know, fossil fuels and global warming and overpopulation, and God is telling me that it's nuclear power and the proliferation of nuclear power off the back of that bullshit. And that's what that conspiracy was always about. I'm not making this up. I'm old enough to remember that the people who started the conspiracy said it was to push for nuclear power. That's what we've got to. We've got to clean energy. They've all decided it's going to be nuclear. That was the scam. And that's the real danger and the real threat. So back to Chernobyl. Okay, so here's something for you which you won't have heard of before. So I have a lot more to say, but just winding things up, I'd like to read to you, as I have done before, this was on a UN official UN website, and I've just copied it off the website because the link's not working at the moment, or they've moved it. But basically, it's the United Nations General Assembly 45th session. This is the 45th session. So gathered here was Hans Blix. You know who Hans Blix is, of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and various world leaders, especially those involved in from Ukraine and Belarus, where Chernobyl happened. Okay, this is what they say. This is what they said. Chernobyl Wormwood proclaimed as fulfillment of Bible prophecy at the 45th session of the UN, i.e. by Belarus President. United Nations General Assembly 45th, excerpts from the provisional verbatim record of the 32nd meeting held at the headquarters New York on Tuesday the 23rd of October 1990 at 10 a.m. Hosted by Mr. Hans Blix. Okay, in Slavic languages, including the Ukrainian and Belarusian languages, there is a word Chernobyl which means wormwood, bitter grass. This has striking relevance to the Chernobyl tragedy. I am no fatalist. I do not believe in the blind inevitability of fate, but who can fail to be moved by these tragic and elegant words from Revelation, which must leave their indelible imprint on the heart? And there fell upon us fell upon a great star from the sky, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died because of the waters, because they were made bitter. At the end of the 20th century, the human intellect, educated in rationalism, in faith in the creative power of science and knowledge, refuses to accept that those words may prove prophetic and fateful for the Belarusian people. Okay, so mankind's worst... This is the link here. I'll put it below. It might be working now. Man's worst portion of things to come. So April the 26th, an explosion at Chernobyl nuclear reactor 1 occurred, blowing the lid off the reactor and releasing 7 tons of radioactive particles into the atmosphere. A mile-high nuclear cloud rained down isotopes on an unsuspecting population of 5 million. Prophetic significance. A third angel sounded his trumpet, and a star burning like a lamp fell from the sky, and a third part of the rivers and springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many died from the waters that became poisonous. The immediate effects: a star is literally a nuclear reactor. Chernobyl exploded over a mile into the atmosphere and fell back to earth, burning like a lamp. The disaster was made worse because it rained for 3 weeks all over Europe. In Finland, the reindeer died. In Italy, tens of thousands of acres of fruit farm were destroyed. The fallout got into the waters, the rivers and the aquifers, and was recorded particularly high in areas of Wales, which provided drinking water to central England, where my family became. The area of the Earth affected was roughly 1/3 due to the radioactive fallout getting into the waters. According to Paul Brown, environmental correspondent at The Guardian, 26th of April 2000, showed the Chernobyl disaster was predicted to cause 50,000 new cases of thyroid cancer among young people living in the worst affected region. World Health Organization researchers say the figures show that in Gomel, Belarus, 36.4% of children aged under 4 on April the 26th, the day of the disaster, will develop thyroid cancer. Now, this is all hidden. This is all very hard to find. The nuclear industry has many people out there supporting it. Many people. It's a big atheist agenda as well. The atheists love nuclear power because it's the victory of mankind. It's not. It's the end of mankind.
Order and how you came to discover it exists.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Order is truly a secret society. It was founded in the United States at Yale University. In particular, left a memorandum in 1932. It was buried away in his papers. I don't think anybody found it before I did. And it was a 6-page memorandum on the order, naming some of the members, and said it was the most sordid thing ever happened in the history of man. So, to come back to my point,
I'm steady naked, smiling, I feel no disgrace with who I am. I've been there.